Well, the 2014 season for the Bethel Wildcat football team was a story of really two seasons. Off to an 0-5 start to begin the season, and then winners of 5 of the last 6 and the last 3 in a row. They came out on the win side as well. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave McCulley, joined by co-host Zach O'Kelly. This is the Chris Elliott Show. Hope you'll join us from week to week as we talk to the coach. We'll review the previous week's games and preview the upcoming contest. And speaking of previewing, the Cats open up the 2015 campaign in St. Louis Saturday as they take on the Missouri Baptist Ball Club, the Spartans, up in St. Louis, and a ball club that only in their second year of existence, but certainly we expect a really good ball game. Zach, thanks for joining me here on the Chris Elliott Show this season.
Thanks for having me.
It's a production of the Sports Information Department here at Bethel University, and Coach will join us in a few minutes, but Zach, certainly a lot of optimism about this season. Coming out of the season last year with those 3 wins in a row, winners of 5 of the last 6 as we notated, good spring game, good fall practice, and we hope a good start up in St. Louis Saturday.
And a lot of momentum moving forward from last season. At the end of the season, turning it completely around after starting out 0-5. I was around practice all this week, and the players seem up-spirited. They seem like they're energized and ready to go. As
you will with all football teams, no matter what time of the year it is, you'll have a few nagging injuries and those kind of things. We'll talk to Coach Elliott about that in just a few minutes. Bring back Sellers at quarterback. Raymer had a great year last year as a sophomore. He's coming back for his junior season, but certainly it promises to be some veterans coming back and an influx of freshmen. I think on the travel roster, about 17 to 20 freshmen that will make the trip as well.
And that's always something you kind of uncertain about when you have a lot of freshmen making the travel, but evidently they've performed in practice, and that's what it takes to make the travel.
Lost some outstanding players. Stoney Burns comes to mind and some others, but certainly not a rebuilding situation, but some holes to fill, though.
And I think the Cats will have a great season. They'll get off, I think, early with maybe a couple wins here to start with, and they'll continue their momentum from last year.
We remind you, too, that you'll be able to watch and listen to the Bethel football games this season on Wildcat Vision. Just go to our website, bethelathletics.com, and look for the link that takes you right to Wildcat Vision. Zach and I will be doing the play-by-play and the broadcast and telecast for you, and we'll talk to Coach Elliott before each game and after each game. Speaking of the opener against Missouri Baptist, they only won 1 game last year, but they promise, or the SID up there is talking to Brad earlier, he thinks they're going to be better this year, so certainly can't take them for granted. 2 straight road games to open up the season.
Well, and a tough opponent in UT Martin for the second game, but
a Thursday night game.
But the bright side with it being a Thursday night game, they have, I figured 12 days to prepare for UT Martin, and then the next game when they come home and play Pikeville for the home opener, they have like a 9-day period to prepare for Pikeville, so that's kind of an advantage for the Wildcats.
My 24th year as far as covering a athletic team, back with Lameth for 18 seasons, going into our 6th season here at Bethel. Can never remember, though, a year where you only had 4 home games, and that's the case this year for the Wildcats. Some of that because of the rescheduling, and some of it the moves from the west and east and those kind of things, but certainly some contracts being renewed, but only 4 home games, very unusual.
And the key move is Belhaven leaving the West Division, and I think it's Lindsey Wilson coming over from the east, a big powerhouse coming in.
Absolutely. Pikeville at home on the 19th of the month of September, then Kentucky Christian on the road at the Cumberlands on the road up in Williamsburg, then 3 straight home games, Union College, or actually 2 straight home games, excuse me, Union College and Campbellsville, the homecoming affair this season.
And that should be a good game to watch. The Campbellsville was always very tough, and the Wildcats will be pumped up for homecoming.
Well, Campbellsville, a tough game no matter where it is, but certainly homecoming. I've got to talk to Coach Elliott here in a few minutes about this schedule, but certainly then Faulkner, one of the teams ranked, one of the 4 teams in the Mid-South Conference ranked in the top 10. We'll go down to Montgomery. We'll see where they are at near the end of the season. And then Cumberland up in Lebanon. Lindsey Wilson, another ranked team. They are just an outstanding young, relatively a young program, but really, really good. And then we close out the regular season over in Walensky, Georgia against Reinhardt. So a tough schedule top to bottom.
And you have to face the co-champions this year too, Campbellsville and Reinhardt, and you got to travel to Reinhardt.
Bethel picked 5th in the West Division in a tie with Cumberland, so not really surprised by that pick, but certainly I know Coach Elliott and them would like to be better, and I think at the end of the year, possibly we could be better.
Yeah, it's like we've seen last year, and even the year before, the Cats have improved as the 2 seasons have went on, and they showed kind of flourished at the end of the year last year.
What do you think made the difference last year? Losers of 5 straight games, and then really one of the best teams in the conference, and for that matter in the entire Mid-South and the South, the last 6 games of the season. And the one loss we had, that was a very competitive game that we could have won.
I think the key was the big win at Bluefield on the road. They kind of took the monkey off the back and kind of got things rolling in the right direction.
I did that one up in the press box up there. You actually in the press box, you're in Virginia, and right behind the press box where you park, you're in West Virginia. They'd figure that out, but that's the case. A slate of games this week to open up the conference, and I know you have been a little bit of a swami this week. You sort of told me a couple of times that you wanted to pick those games. We'll start with the Thursday night games, and certainly this is a good one, Cumberland's at Campbellsville, and not a lot of love lost for those folks up in the Commonwealth.
2 seasons ago, Cumberland's dropped 70 on Campbellsville, so which Campbellsville got their revenge last year and beat them in a shootout there, but Campbellsville's got a lot coming back, and I think Campbellsville should win it pretty easily.
You look at Campbellsville, a ball club that we'll face down the road too, and of course the Cumberland's. Cumberland's really good. A couple of years ago, the young kid from Northside, their quarterback, had a lot of injuries last year and really sort of plummeted in the rankings after being really heavily ranked early in the season.
Yeah, that's definitely a heartbreaker for them there, and that's the key to the football season is keeping your players healthy and managing injuries.
It's almost like the Hatfields and McCoys when you go up to Bluefield or into Pikeville, and certainly when you go into Pikeville, they've got the big museum there. But Bluefield at Pikeville, one of the closest games those two will play. But how do you see that one this year?
I think Bluefield will show a lot of improvement this year as they've, over the last 2 years have improved a lot since I followed them here with the Bethel program, and I just see Pikeville being too strong for them.
On a side note, Pikeville, when you go up there, they play like in a city stadium, right? So the city's nestled in some valleys and those kind of things. There's a railroad track. They kick the PATs. You kick the PATs and it goes over into the woods near the railroad track. But an interesting baseball note, since we are approaching in the September, and good luck to my Yankees who are struggling a little bit right now. But anyway, the Cubbies had a single A team there years and years ago, and Greg Maddox, his first professional appearance, they were in that very stadium where you play football there.
That's
Well, side note for you.
Neat.
Yeah, you sort of like the Cubs a little bit. That's why I thought I'd throw that in there a little bit.
Love the history of the Cubs.
Yeah, okay, exactly. Meanwhile, the Saturday games, of course, Bethel at Missouri Baptist. We'll get Zach's thoughts. I almost call you Stan. We'll get Zach's thoughts about that in just a minute. I could call you worse. But it's some interesting games. And, of course, you look down at Point University and Reinhardt. That's one of the games that we don't know a lot about Point, but how do you see that one? I know you've researched it.
Point is I think if I'm correct, they're a D3 program, NCAA D3 program there in western Georgia. I'm thinking Reinhardt may pull an upset there. I think Reinhardt may pull a win there from Point.
Coaching changed surprisingly over the summer with Reinhardt, but that's a beautiful place to go. We're not sure if we'll be able to go to some of the road games yet because we're fighting. For example, Wildcat Vision will not be in St. Louis this week. Some press box technicalities there, and UT Martin, believe it or not, they've told us that they don't have an Ethernet line as well. Although we are working on that, but we will try to bring you some selected road games. But be sure and stay with us for all the Wildcat Vision games right here at home during basketball and, of course, now during football. Before we go and get Coach Elliott in for his segment, it is the Chris Elliott Show. Your thoughts about this Missouri Baptist Bethel game? I'll go on record by saying I'll be surprised if we don't win, and if we don't win, pretty big.
I've got about the same thoughts. I think Missouri Baptist, they only had a 1-win season last year. New program, second season. They're still working.
Yeah, they're building. Yeah, sure.
Still in the building stage and still working to get better. And with the momentum Bethel had at the end of the season last year and the spirits we've seen on the practice field this week, I think Bethel should win fairly big. It's
a big game because it's the next game, but the bottom line is really need to win this thing to get the season off to a good start. UT Martin will be tough, not that we can't go up there and win, but this is a key game to get the season off to a great start.
And it is. That'll be a lot of momentum going to the UT Martin game as well. And if Martin plays, I think Ole Miss next weekend will be on my birthday, on the 5th. And that could be a trap game for Martin as well. They may look over Bethel, and Bethel may hang in there enough to pull an upset maybe.
Yeah, I thought you were going to talk about UT Martin, that being a trap game for Ole Miss. Believe me, Hugh Freeze doesn't get caught in trap games. I've worked with him 2 years at Lambeth. He's one of the best in the business, and UT Martin better play well down in Oxford or that will get real ugly. Of course, they'll bring a big paycheck home back as well. Brad, the SID at Missouri Baptist, told me they've had a lot of injuries. Now, we'll wait and see about that. You can watch the game by going to our website, bethelathletics.com, and just watch for the link there right on our scoreboard. It's over to the right. You'll have Bethel at Missouri Baptist, and you'll see a little icon there, and you can watch the game right there as well. Check out our game notes, and also check out our season preview. It's all on bethelathletics.com. Thanks Zach, for joining me, and we'll be joined in the next segment by Coach Chris Elliott.
Thanks, sir.
All right, Zach O'Kelly joining us. We'll come back, and you'll be joined by Coach Chris Elliott in his 4th season and looking for win number 17. He's 16-19 coming in, but all that's going to turn this season for a big season for the Cats and Coach Elliott. Back after this on Wildcat Vision. Coach Elliott joins us now here on the Chris Elliott Show. And Coach, welcome aboard Wildcat Vision. Boy, we're excited about the show each week.
Thank you. Glad to do it.
Good to be back with you and good to be working with you again. Wildcat Vision again, we repeat, you can watch all the home games, and some selected road games will not be with you at MBU. And we're still working at the last second here on UT Martin, trying to get a line there to make our telecast possible. But Coach, the tale of 2 seasons, as I mentioned opening up a moment ago, the first 5 games we were winless, but came back, and boy, did we close out with a fury. 5-6 in the last 6 ball games, and winners of 3 in a row. So had to take some of that momentum into the spring and now into the fall practice.
Well, definitely. I mean, obviously the season didn't go exactly how we planned. I mean, nobody wants to start out 0-5, but we did, and you know, we were able to bounce back from that and then finish 5-1 in the last 6. So, it did, give us a springboard going into the off season, and of course, we have a lot of those guys back this year.
Sure.
So, the fact that we have those people back has helped. Off season workouts, spring practice, summer conditioning, all that kind of stuff. I mean, our guys, came back to camp this fall, ready to go. And of course, when you taste some success, you should want more. And that should drive you to work harder, and our guys have done that.
Everyone a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, and another year under their belts of experience. That means a lot.
Well, as much as you practice and as many drills and all the there's no substitute for game experience. Sure. And the fact that, some of these guys now have 2 years under their belt, and some of them 3, that really helps, because you just, as hard as we try, you cannot replicate that in
Sure.
practice.
Lost some key players. We would be remiss to do our first inaugural Chris Elliott Show and not mention a couple of those guys. Tyler Murray, who's still with the staff and will work as a grad assistant. Great to have him back. Leading tackler in Bethel football history. Stoney Burns, and I'm leaving out some folks. We just don't have enough time to go over everyone, but there are some holes to fill.
There are, but I mean, that's every year.
Sure.
We've gotten to a point with our program now that, our senior days are a lot larger. When we first got here back in, 02 to 05, I mean, we'd have, 2, 3, 5, maybe, that was it. Now we're up in the, 12 to 15 to 18 to 20. And that's a great sign for the program. Sure. Because, guys are sticking around and making it through to senior day. So, it's a good thing. It's a bad thing, the following year, but then it's it's a good thing for the people that have the opportunity to step up and fill those spots.
Along with the veterans coming back, we can mention Sellers, we can mention Raymer, we can mention Terrence Thomas, a lot of other folks, and Vic and all the guys back on defense. Certainly a good influx of young freshmen and some transfers as well.
Yeah, we do. I mean, and we don't do a whole lot in the transfer thing, but we did get a couple this year, and one of them, Vontae Owens, he's going to help out at tight end for us. So he's come in and figured things out pretty quick and earned himself a spot. And then we'll have probably 6 to 8 freshmen on the opening day roster that are going to have opportunities to contribute. A lot of them, they'll start out on special teams and then work their way into, offensive and defensive spots. But you'll see some new names too that, haven't played before.
Preparing for Missouri Baptist up in St. Louis, a night game coming up this coming Saturday at CBC Stadium. And you can watch the game courtesy of the Sports Information Department at NBU. And again, go to our website, and on the schedule bar there's a little icon there, and there's Wildcat Vision, of course, we'll have at home. But on that one this week, you'll be able to watch the game and listen to those folks. They have a 3-camera setup. We understand they really do a good job. We appreciate Brad up there, the SID, sending me that information. Coach, looking at the game, the one preparing, assess your fall practice leading up to this game Saturday.
Well, it's been good. I think our guys, for the most part, came back ready to go. And the summertime is a good time, but then it's also a time of uncertainty because you're trusting that the guys are doing what's necessary to prepare.
Right.
Because we have, we're with them all spring. From the weight room, the spring practice, and then then they go home. We give them a workout guide, and like I said, we trust that they're going to do what they need to do, and for the most part, they did. As we always tell them, what you do over the summer is going to determine what type of year we have. So, I think our guys went home hungry and came back, ready to go, and camp has went well. We're at the point now where we've been going at each other for 4 weeks. It's time to play somebody.
Absolutely.
So, game day, couldn't come soon enough. So, we're all looking forward to getting on the bus Friday and going up to St. Louis.
And for the most part, most of the folks you thought were coming back have come back. But football's like life. Kids fall in love, family issues come up, parents move, financial situations come up. So for the most part, most of the folks you thought were coming back are back.
Yes, most of them have. There's always, a couple that don't for whatever reason. And of course, there's 1.5 million reasons why they don't. You've been around it just as long, so you understand that. But we have, like I said, we have a good core group of guys coming back, and then we have a good group of young guys that have come in, and some of them have stepped up and earned the opportunity to play.
As it is with any game, it's the big game because it's the next game, but it's a season opener. Always I get a really good feeling about a season opening game in any sport, but especially football. There's a lot of optimism in the camp.
Well, yeah, we only get so many opportunities to play. It's not, like a baseball or a basketball where you play, 30, 40, 50 games.
Or 162,
Yeah, we get 11.
Yeah.
That's all we're guaranteed on paper. Good Lord willing, but so you cannot take any of them for granted just because they're, by the time we start this Saturday, we're going to be in the middle of November before you know it. But I always say you're eager with anticipation. Obviously we have high expectations every year, and this year is no different. But you just don't know what's going to happen until you go play. Now, we think we've got a pretty good group, and we think things are going pretty well in our preparation. But we'll find out, when we tee it up on Saturday evening.
And obviously, some of the freshmen have stepped up in the fall. Last count, I had 17 on the travel roster. That's sort of a number that didn't shock me, but some freshmen have obviously played well and earned some spots to travel.
Well, yeah, and that's, everybody has the same opportunity when they come in, to show what they can do. And if the young guys come in and they're ready, we're going to give them a chance. Now, the nice thing is we do have a lot of older, experienced guys, so we don't necessarily have to throw, 10 freshmen on the field and say, you go play the whole game and figure it out. We're kind of able to protect them a little bit, ease them into things, so to speak, which is nice for them because, if they play 20, 30 plays, that's not too overwhelming, but if you throw them out there for 85, by halftime their head might be spinning a little
absolutely.
bit. So it's kind of nice to be able to cover them up with those older guys so that they have that help and guidance on the field.
And that depth comes in, especially on special teams as well, maybe earning some spots there. You look at, we'll talk about the schedule in a minute. We'll talk about MBU. That's the big topic today with the Chris Elliott Show. And thanks for joining us, by the way. But let's talk about your coaching staff. For the most part, intact. A couple of grad assistants move on. A couple of new guys coming in. And one of them, as we mentioned earlier, very familiar to Bethel fans.
Yeah, Tyler Murray, we had an opportunity.
Always one of my favorites.
Yeah, we had an opening, and it was an opportunity, and we offered Tyler, and he was willing to accept it. So, we're happy to keep him around. And then we were able to, back in January, we brought Ethan Carter in. He was coaching high school football in Mississippi. So it kind of opened some doors, in that part of the country for us. But, both of those guys have come in and done a great job for us. And, those really are the only two new ones, from last year. Everybody else is still the same.
A couple of nuances, too, and maybe some duties being reassigned. We won't go into that today. We'll go into that later. But for the most part, for very familiar names back and doing a lot of the same things they've always done for you. The coaching staff, obviously, key for any football program. The managers, the trainers, everyone plays a big part of the program as well. Let's talk about the schedule. You open up on the road 2 consecutive times, of course, in St. Louis this week, and then UT Martin. We're not even thinking about that one yet, but then we come home against Pikeville, a Bear team that's actually playing on Thursday this week.
Yeah, it's the schedule is what it is, and it's done, and we're going to, go line up each week and play, whoever's on the schedule to play. Of course, there's no time to really think much past, this Saturday until this Saturday's over, but, the Mid-South Conference is still top to bottom, going to be one of the better conferences in the country.
4 teams top 10, or top 20.
Exactly. So, preseason even, we have people in there. So,
and we're playing 3 of them, by the way.
Yeah, most of them are on our side of the conference. So, but, it's one of those things we always say that if we can get through our conference, and put ourselves in position to win the conference, we know that we're in position to, to make a playoff run because our conference is one of the better ones in the country, we feel. So to put ourselves to the position to be successful there, then we should, we think we can set ourselves up to have a successful postseason.
Our co-host and assistant SID, Zach O'Kelly, brought something to my attention earlier this week when he talked about Campbellsville. They were talking to their coach, and he was talking about the power over in the West and this kind of thing. And he mentioned Bethel. He said, hey, look, don't anyone forget Bethel and Coach Elliott and his ball club. So a well-respected program, and certainly one that I think we can make a lot of noise. Coach, you look, only 4 home games, a little different. I know some of the contracts re-signed and those kind of things and the adjustment from the East-West, but only 4 home games this season.
Yeah, I mean, we'll just make the most of those
Sure.
4. I mean,
Yeah.
if we only have 1, you make the most of that 1.
Yeah.
Like I said, wherever we're supposed to be, when we're supposed to, we'll go show up and play whenever, wherever. So, we're just looking forward to having a chance to play.
He's one of the most positive people I've ever worked with in all the 24 years now of college sports, and sometimes I wish I could be as positive, but behind the scenes, I'm always positive up front, I know. But Coach, MBU, a ball club that only won 1 last year. I talked to Brad, their SID. He said they're banged up with some injuries, but certainly we take nothing light of them. Tell me what you've seen in some films and getting ready and preparing for this opening game, the Spartans up at MBU.
Well, I mean, you know as well as I do, don't ever take anything for granted. And you look at their schedule last year. I mean, they played some 1AA teams.
Played some people we played.
Some Division II teams. And then they sprinkled some NAIA games in there. So, they were playing teams from all different levels, and it was their first year.
They were independent. They were independent last year, but they moved into a league now, I believe. The Mid-States. Yeah.
Last year they were independent, being their
Right.
first year.
Sure.
And I think they knew that they were going to be in the Mid-States, but they just couldn't get in that first
Sure.
year. But so now they are in the Mid-States, and now they'll have more of an NAIA schedule. But I mean, the Mid-States is right up there with the Mid-South in terms of the level of competition. So, they're getting themselves into a pretty good situation where they're going to, have some pretty tough ones week in and week out. But, I mean, you don't really so much look at a record, especially when you look at who they were playing.
Right. And they're very competitive in some of those games.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it was their first year playing.
Sure.
So, they had a lot of young guys playing. We've been in that situation before.
Absolutely.
Where we've played a lot of young guys, and, you just, it goes back to that experience thing. You got to learn somehow, and the only way you learn is by doing. Now a lot of the guys are back from last year's team. So, those guys all have 11 games worth of experience. So we expect them, to come out and play at a high level.
And I know they have expectations of a good season just like we do. Let's break it down offensively. And I know protect the football, the things we talk about, even back during our radio days all these years with you, but protect the football and just make sure that we make solid decisions. Let's start offensively. What do we have to do to win this opening game?
Well, I mean, the first thing we talk about every week with our offensive unit is protect the football. The more we have it in our hands, the more opportunities we have to score. Giving it away is not an option. When you do that, then you start, lessening your chances of being successful. But, no mental errors, whether that be, lack of focus penalties, those kind of things. The easy things to control, we have to
Sure.
make sure we're perfect on those things. And then, just execute the plan. We try to keep things fairly simple. Just because it makes it easier on game day. And of course, we've been going through this game plan now for 2 weeks, because, we started our game prep right at the beginning of school, so we've had 2 weeks of practice. So, I think our guys have a really good grasp of what we're trying to do, and, we just need to go out there and do that to the best of our ability.
Offensive line, obviously, there's a couple of new people in there, but some seasoned veterans back as well. And obviously, Sellers can run the ball, they can throw it as well, but Raymer and Fitz, offensive line does their job, which we expect them to do that. Certainly could be a big day for us.
Yeah, I mean, that's the plan.
Sure.
And the offensive line is always the key.
Sure.
If you want to have a good day offensively, those guys have to play well, whether you're trying to run it or throw it. We lean on those guys a lot.
We'll talk about them, and we'll single out some kids, and maybe even have some of the kids with us. I say kids, young student athletes with us throughout the year. But let's go with the defensive side. You lose Stoney Burns, you lose Murray, some other folks. And again, I hate that we leave people out, but certainly some holes to fill there. But some kids, some key people coming back there too, though.
Well, yeah, as many people as we lost, we had, other guys that did have, they may not have played full-time, number of plays, but, some of the younger guys that played behind a Tyler Murray or behind a Stoney, they did have a taste of it.
Sure.
And plugging them in those positions, we're not going to be losing as much as you may think, because those guys do have some game experience, and they're ready to step up and be a full-time.
I thought that was one of the keys for us in the second half too. I thought our defense was just so much better as the year progressed last year.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, and really you could say that about the whole team.
Yeah.
But, the group, came together just like, the whole team did. But, for a lot of different reasons. You talk about guys injured and missing spring practice and things like that just really set you back. So it almost took us till the middle of the season till everybody kind of got their,
right.
I guess their game conditioning or whatever you want to call it. And where, that unit really came together, and, like you said, tale of two seasons.
Coach Chris Elliott joins us as we wrap up the show, the inaugural show here for the 2015 campaign. Coach, sticking with defense a moment, what does MBU like to do? How do they trend there?
I mean, last year, and of course, all we have is what we saw from last year. They were more of a heavy run team. I think they ran the ball almost 400 times, threw it maybe 230. So they lean more on the run. Looking at the scouting report and looking at film, I mean, there's certain sets, certain personnel groups, you can kind of know they're going to lean more to the run, and certain they're going to throw. But we'll see what happens when the game starts.
Sure.
I mean, they'll either hold true to that, or, some things may have changed. And of course, you have to expect that or be
Sure.
ready for that, especially in the first game, because, like I said, all we have to go by is what we saw last year.
On the special teams, too, we'd be remiss. Robbie Phillips, first time in a while we haven't had him back there. And, of course, I know Casey has he has the ability, and we saw that last year, so he's certainly capable back there. But special teams, a key to any season as well.
Well, yeah, and I mean, we really put a lot of stress on that. I mean, it's a third of the game.
Sure.
And those thirds are all equal. So special teams are just as important as offense, defense. And we put a lot of time into preparing for those in terms of meetings, and putting a lot of time in practice in those as well. And something that our guys take pride in. And we've been able to use special teams to be a huge difference maker in games throughout the year.
Sure.
I mean, just in the time you've been here. There have been a lot of different, of course everybody goes back to the returns, but, there's been block kicks and
absolutely
forced bad snaps, sure. And all kind of things that turn the tide of a game pretty quick. So, that's why we put so much stress on it and make it so important.
How important are they? Well, he's a friend of mine, a longtime friend, dating back to my Lambeth days. But if you don't believe that special teams can win a game for you, check out Bill Cronin in Georgetown just a couple of years ago. If Bill watches this, Bill, you're still a friend of mine, even hopefully after that statement. Coach, good luck to you. Certainly, we want the folks to join us each week with the Chris Elliott Show, and give Emma and Lindsay, your lovely wife, and Emma almost 2 now, so she's growing up, isn't she?
Yes, sir. She'll be 2 in December.
Yeah. Good luck to you, Coach.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Coach Chris Elliott, join us each week here with not only Coach Elliott, but Zach O'Kelly will join me from time to time as well. We'll have some of the coaches in and some of the players as well. Good luck to the Cats. They'll take on Missouri Baptist this coming Saturday night. Until next week with the coach, I'm Dave McCulley along with Zach O'Kelly. So long, everybody.